Hello everyone, this is In-Game Arts with another box into the offline product game review. This is the Withering rooms for the PlayStation 5. To jump right into it, this physical copy here is just the base vanilla version of the game, so the on-disc version is 1.0. Now sadly there was an update available. This update size was 900 megabytes big and will take you to version 1.0.6 since the time I make this video. Now like always, I play all my games completely offline with an unregistered account, and I cannot claim my experience was 100% flawless, but I still did 100% beat the game. And as well, I was still unlocking trophies with my unregistered account. Now, this was the first time and in my first time full experience of the Withering rooms. I had no idea what I was going to get myself into when I first started playing it. But the game seemed to be very fascinating, so I was very intrigued into it, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed Withering rooms. It is disappointing that my experience was not flawless, but I still beat the game. Now, I've only got one indie throughout the entire game, and there are multiple indies, and there is a secret true boss in the game that I have yet to fight, but the one time through the campaign, I did beat and finish. Now, Withering Rooms is a mixture of multiple ideas for a game. It has both the Alice in Wonderland, Silent Hill, and of course Souls-like from Software, all put together with a very minor roguelite. Now, the game may deter some people because I hear it is a roguelite. This is surprisingly not the main part of the game, because I actually got pretty far into the game without a single death in the game. And death only just resets the entire area, respawns all the items, but I don't think it really changes the layout of the level. That only changes when it's a new game. You start a new game. When you die, it's kind of like starting a bonfire or dying in a Souls-like, or from Software games, where the enemies just respawn. But in this, the enemies respawn, the map has kind of gone and you have to recreate the map and everything, like find all the map sections. But I remember dying and the layout seemed identical, so the only thing it seems like it's changing is the restarting of the environment, but the sections are all still kind of the same. But you're still finding items, you're still fighting all the enemies. And I do want to preface that the game is a lot different than your typical roguelite, where bosses even have checkpoints, where you could start up a mirror like candle thing, and if you die from that boss, you don't have to restart your entire level run. You can just start you off for that checkpoint that you created. So I thought that was very interesting and a different change of pace from a typical roguelite, where it's a lot more forgiving, and as long as you're cautious, you can get pretty far in the game. I went through the entire thing, and I think I only died about 3 or 4 times at most, and I did beat it, and I got pretty strong and powerful with very little risk. Now, the only few times I did die was because of my carelessness. Now, I did die for bosses, but since the game has that checkpoint system, it didn't really count as a death of restarting like a roguelite, or in Dark Souls, where if you die once, you have to run back and fight all the enemies. Since they have a checkpoint system for the bosses, it made the bosses fight less as a burden if you lose, which is a good or a bad thing depending on the individual. Now, I do want to point out some of my grievances about the experience. Clunky gameplay. Now, this may go both sides. It is a little bit more clunkier than your typical Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and stuff like that for some people. And since it is a strictly 2.5D style game, you're not going to be able to dodge and weave as smooth as your typical games of that genre. So I can see some people having a lot of issues because it is just a 2D game. So it can be kind of clunky at times, and the game has a bit of that where if you double press a button, she'll double action even though you didn't really mean to do a double action. So just keep that in mind. If you push dodge twice and you're just panicking pressing it, she will respond with that and dodge twice, even though you only really wanted her to dodge once. You just happened to accidentally push it twice because you were in a bit of a tiffle trying to get out of the way. So I can see a lot of people can have a lot of issues with that, but over time I got the hang of it and it wasn't really that bad. If the game is still being difficult for you, I do recommend maybe a vampirism build where you can hit enemies and regenerate your life. I found that to be a very powerful build. Now, the game has many kind of play styles. You can go with a projectile where you throw bottles or grenades or use firearms to be able to attack, or you can use magic and spells if you prefer that route, or go with a melee route like a warrior style. So that's really interesting because you have your own play styles you could go with. Next up, I want to point out that AI can be a little iffy. I don't know if this is just because of certain design aspects. Certain AI will be a little bit more hostile, a little bit more aggressive to try to find you and chase after you between rooms. Other ones, even though there is no thing there to keep them there, like a special item that they're supposed to be protecting, some of them will not come after you at certain as you would think they would. So using certain strategies isn't as guaranteed as you would think it would be, like luring them out of that room or trying to, if there's like multiple enemies in one room, you want to try to lure some out. That may not always work. So, and sometimes AI can be a little iffy, like if they can go through that room. There's a few times I had it where they just wouldn't go through that room, but they only go through it after I went back to their room and came back in, and then it kind of bugs out a little bit. So the AI enemy pathing can be a little iffy at times. Moving on, I did have these special knights that you can use to call as like a summon to be able to be as allies. These knights you can find scattered out throughout the map, and you can use a spell to like reanimate these knights and use them as allies. There's a few times that I did reanimate these knights and then came back to that room and the knight armor's still there. So it may look like there's a new knight you can summon, but since you've already summoned it, it's not technically there. So just bear that in mind. As well as that, this is the biggest one and it is most disappointing one. There is some weird issue with a graphical issue in this game where the game will black out. At first, you'll only see some minor flickering, but the game will like flicker black a little bit, and that's about it. But I think this is like a progression issue where eventually maybe some memory leak or some graphical leak or something like that, eventually the game will completely black out the screen where you can't see anything. Now, this wasn't a modder issue or anything like that on my side, because you can still see the HUD, you can still see your map, you can still see your health bar and all this other stuff. It's just all the assets will black out completely where you can't see anything. I've tried multiple ways to fix this. I've tried to close out the application, boot it back up, or go back to the main menu, start the game. Sometimes it somewhat fixes it, sometimes it didn't even fix it at all. The only way I was able to fix this blackout issue is just close out the application and restart my PS5 completely and reboot it back up and then jump into the game, and it would go away for quite a while. I don't know, throughout the entire experience of my game, I've only had it happen 3 times where I had to restart my PS5 to get this completely blackout. Sometimes it's not even blackout. It's sometimes got like a somewhat blackout where you can still see some of the environment and see like lighting effects, but everything else is still blackout. It's some weird asset issue that's going on where the asset and the rendering of it is just completely blacks out. It is disappointing because that is one of the biggest bugs and issues in the game, and I'm really disappointed that is in the physical copy and it's not fixed. As well as I did have a few of my AI partners, whether a rifleman that I asked to come with me or one of my knights get stuck in the environment. Thankfully, sometimes they will spawn with you after you move to a new room, sometimes. Or sometimes they just get stuck and they're just stuck for good. So that was really, really disappointing. As well as I did have some minor random stutters here and there. No frame rate drops, but maybe a few times when I'm running really far or really long, the game will randomly stutter. It's not that big of a deal, but it was there throughout my experience. And that's about it. Everything else worked relatively good. No real bugs, no soft locks, no game crashes, no freeze-ups, no nothing. The only thing that was hindering progress and making me have to stop and restart my PS5 was that blackout screen. If it wasn't for that, I could really recommend this physical copy. But as of right now, it is a great game, and I greatly loved it. But this is here at In-Game Arts, we don't review games, we review physical copies, and there is a clear issue with the physical copy with that blackout. Now, maybe this 900 megabyte update fixes this issue. I hope it does. I really hope that maybe we could see a new print run down the road that fixes this issue, because I was pleasantly surprised with this game. I thoroughly enjoyed this game to beginning and end. Even when I got near the ending that I knew was the ending, I didn't even want it to be the ending, because I thought, I'm still playing the game. I don't want it to end. And I know I still haven't found everything in the game. The game is very different from your typical experience that I thought was very interesting. Like I said, it's a combination of Alice in Wonderland Silent Hill with some Dark Souls kind of gameplay mechanics where you can level up, get gear, equip gear, as well as then progressively get stronger, as well as you can backtrack and find some extra like rings and equipment and stuff. So there's a lot here, and I was pleasantly surprised when I beat the game and I saw the credits rolling. I pulled myself away for a little bit to check my phone or check my computer for a quick thing, and I was probably looking away from my screen for probably like maybe 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes tops, and I looked back and the credits were already done. So I have no idea how few people worked on this game, but it wasn't that many for the credits to disappear that quickly. So I have to give kudos to the developers who created this. It truly captivated me throughout the game, and it's killing me that I cannot sit here and talk to you guys about the story, because the story is very interesting. I think they did a wonderful new iteration of the idea of Alice in Wonderland. I was captivated by the story of this game. Now, some might feel differently, and that's okay, but it pleasantly surprised me, and I'm so intrigued to possible sequels or new iterations, or just me playing the game again, because when you beat the game, there is a new game plus, which was really surprising to see, as well as that there are multiple endings and just content to be able to find. I know my first through the game, I did not find everything. I did not fight every single kind of enemy. I did not find every equipment and gear and stuff like that. So I was just pleasantly surprised. And at the time of this video, I would say this is within easily one of my top 10 favorite PS5 games that I've played so far. And I would very much love to see a new physical copy to address this graphical asset issue that blacks out the screen. In my personal opinion, even with this kind of a bad product because of that issue, this is still well worth to pick up a copy, because boy oh boy, it was fun, it was unique, it was different. It is a little clunky here and there, and there's some minor little issues that some might find, and that's perfectly fine. I fully understand it. Again, it isn't somewhat of an indie game. It's a small studio, small development, but for what they did, for the amount of enemies, the unique environments, the unique concepts of it, like building up your curse, and that curse starts changing the environment, and that's where the Silent Hill starts kicking in, where the environment's deteriorating and things are just warping out in control. It's really cool. There was a few times like even the game jump scared me a little bit because of the random stuff that's going on. I recommend the game, but boy oh boy, if there's a new physical copy down the road, I would highly recommend picking up a new copy just so you can have the most updated version of the game. At the time though, if this is the only physical copy we'll ever get of Withering Rooms, it's still a good game to play. Just bear that in mind about you might have to restart your PS5 to address this graphical asset issue that blacks out the screen. But for me, I definitely could play this game again. Even when I was recording this video, I was already full invested in the game. Even though I had a new game plus save, I was ready to run to this game again with an all-new save, because that's how much fun I was having. I haven't felt this way with a unique game like this since Darkwood, which Darkwood is a phenomenal game you should pick up as well. So like always, thank you all so much for watching. I will try to leave links down in the description. At the time of this video, this is only available in the PAL region, and from my understanding, it's only available on the PS5 for the physical copy. So that's a very unique physical copy at the time that's making this video, and I think it's something you should not overlook. Whether it becomes some rare collectible, I don't know. I'm never good with that predicting that stuff, but for me as a game, you can really see why at Steam this is sitting at an overwhelmingly positive. There is a unique experience here, and I think it's well worth looking into if you can get that experience from it. So like always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next unboxing video. Bye-bye!